Thanks.
And there's Pat. How are you doing, Pat? My mind went blank on that.
Oh, are you muted, Pat?
Yeah,
There
I
we
know.
go.
There you go,
okay.
Pat.
I just unmuted.
That's okay. You sound great. Okay, and Vicki. Unmute.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
It's-
Hello, Vicki.
Okay.
Hello.
Mickey and Vicki.
That's right.
I like it. Where are you from, Jennifer? Where do you live?
London, Ontario.
Oh, wow.
I got here because of Jackie Carmichael.
Okay. Wow.
I think, where did she hear me? It might have been one of Bill Arnott's things, or it might have been one out of Calgary. I don't remember.
Somewhere.
Somewhere she heard me and said, yeah, you should check out the Electric Mermaid's reading. So
Excellent.
here I am. So thank you for letting in somebody from the center of the country.
That's, you know what? We've had people from, we like this from anywhere. We don't care where you're from. You can be from New Jersey. You can be from Mexico, London, Spain, wherever you want to be.
That's great.
As long as you read, even if you don't read and you just like to listen, that's all we like. We like that too.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Well, that's good.
Where do you live, Vicki?
Vicki lives in Port Alberni. Sorry.
So you guys know each other.
Yeah, she's one of our regulars.
And where do you live, Pat?
In Powell River.
Okay. Cool.
But sometimes you live in Texada Island too, don't you? Sometimes.
Well, I have my recording studio over there on Texada.
Oh.
But your actual home is Powell River.
Yep,
Okay.
that's where I am now.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Oh, my mind went blank. I can't remember our Joseph's our second one. I cannot remember our first feature reader. Oh shoot. Joys of getting older.
You look young to me.
Oh, I am young, but I am getting up there. I'm 47, but I feel like these days I feel better.
To be 47 again.
Me too.
That was a while ago.
There's Jackie.
To be 67 again.
I do 47 again.
Ugh.
It might help me out a little bit, as a matter of fact.
Thank you for stepping in, Jackie, for me tonight. It's just with not my glasses, and I got everything else ready. So I got Joseph to put his books where they could buy. They got that there, so that's awesome.
Hi, Jackie.
Who's that?
That's
Mickey.
Vicki.
Mickey.
Hey,
There's
Mickey.
There's Vicki and Mickey.
Oh, nice.
Is he Donald now?
Hey, there's Pat, too.
Hi, Derek.
What a good crowd we're having here. That's
Yes, we got a good crowd. We only had one back out. That's all right. Bill.
Oh, now Carl's on there.
Yeah. Whatever his name is, Bill Agnes or whatever.
Hello, Derek.
Hello, everybody. I'm finally here.
Hello.
Okay. And you got the list, Derek, of our upcoming readers?
I did. I got everything. And yeah, I hadn't scrolled down on my email to see where Jackie had sent me everything, of course.
That's okay. I had asked Jackie to do, she's going to introduce you tonight because I can't find that email. I put everything, and of course, I don't have my regular glasses on, so I'm really getting through this tonight.
No worries.
So I have to thank goodness I got backup people to help me out.
That's why we're a team, Carl.
That's right.
Yeah.
We work
So
together.
in June, do we have, is it 3 readers? Because it looked like there was a person had there was 2 different names. I was really confused there.
They co-authored a book, I believe, Jackie?
Yeah, that's right. They co-authored a book, so they're appearing together.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be good.
Yeah, and
Derek
if you,
had sent you a note.
yes, and if you know where you can get their books, let me know. Because that way I have it already, that way I can just put it on the thing, on the alberni.ca. Hopefully people will check that out. And where they're from, because then we can go, that's how the order goes in. So if someone's really far away, like New York or wherever, then I'll get them to go first.
Okay, yeah.
But if I don't know that,
Yeah. How are you doing tonight, Vicki?
Oh,
Vicky or-
really well.
Mickey or Vicky? Oh, sorry.
Vicky.
Vicki
There's
that
a-
time.
Vic, the V, the
Mickey?
V.
Did you say Vicky?
Yes, he did.
I did say Vicki.
Super. I just finished a week of the Fed and their
Oh.
summit, and it was wonderful.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're all charged up.
Kind of. Yeah, I hope so.
Good. Yeah, awesome. Super.
What's the Fed, Vicky?
Federation of BC Writers.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, right. I remember about that. There was like was it on Zoom though? Or how did they do it?
On Zoom, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You got a lot out of it, did you?
Yeah, I did. There was some really good people there, really good presenters.
Yeah.
I just am kind of zoomed out,
Unintended.
but it was great. You know, it was a really good way to do it because you're sitting at home and you can have a coffee or whatever, which is
Sit in
kind
your
of
underwear.
Yeah.
I've been a member of the BC Federation of Writers for years,
Okay.
and they were very helpful with helping me with self-publishing. And can you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
It's weird having
Yeah.
a screen where all it says is sign in, and I can't remember my password. Anyway, I talked last week a little bit about, or last month about the muse, the writing, what gets me writing, and I hear this voice in my head. So tonight I'm going to read just one page from a children's book I wrote. And about a week ago at 5 a.m. I couldn't sleep, and the whole sequel came in like 10 minutes. The whole sequel to this children's book was in my head.
Oh,
And I
my
have to
word.
write it. So I'll read
Beautiful.
you guys a little passage tonight, and I've got the sequel in my head, and I'm working on writing it as a second.
Wow.
Yeah. It
That
was
is so
rare.
cool.
It was just bizarre.
I love it when things like that happen. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Did you get a
Hi,
download?
Char. Mwah.
I got up and immediately wrote an outline, Derek. I wrote an outline of the whole thing.
Perfect.
There's Jo- oh,
Pat, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. I'm like Vicki. I got summited out at the Fed all week. You know, and Zoom overload. So
Yeah.
Jackie, are you going to read?
And then if you want to
Yes,
talk,
yes,
sorry.
I'm going to read. I am
you.
going to read.
okay.
Now, Derek, am I still on for 10 minutes tonight? Derek and Jackie?
Who?
Okay.
Yes, Mickey, you are. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who's talking to me.
That was Mickey, right?
That was Mickey.
You like the notes.
Okay.
And they
Mickey
can
has a double feature.
hear you because it's on
Yes.
video.
Derek, did you see the note that I sent you?
Well, I see it here marked on the readers list. Your first reader up, Mickey Findlay, 10 minutes.
No, I'm sorry. I sent you a note in the a private note in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have got my chat open. That would explain that.
If you need a light, just use
Yeah.
it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Maybe turn the other one on too.
So
Well, turn this one on, but you don't need that.
Lunchbucket.
Oh, okay.
Joe. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Hi, Joe.
Hi,
How you doing, Bob?
so far above ground.
Good. Above ground is always a good thing.
Okay, just one second.
Okay.
Jackie,
yeah,
where did he go? Okay, our second feature readers here is our first one. Are they coming? I'm gonna say they.
yeah. Jacqueline Mitchard is not able to be with us.
Okay,
She's ill.
okay,
I'm not
So-
I'm not going to describe the details of how she's
No.
ill. But she's ill.
okay. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So
hard when people
Joseph
do
will be our
that
first
and
feature
notice,
reader.
but-
Perfect.
Sicknesses like that. So. Okay.
So Joseph goes from number 2 to number 1. I like that.
Can I ask you guys another question?
Sure.
Have you ever had anybody play a drum?
Yep.
When I get my 10 minutes, which is in August, I'm going to try and sing
Are
a
you
song
honest?
to which I wrote the lyrics and play my drum, but I have
Yeah,
no
you're
idea how it's going to sound.
Well, it's going to sound amazing.
I'll find a way to practice maybe on my other podcast. And if
Well,
they tell me it sounds terrible, I won't inflict it on you guys.
No. You should practice it tonight after we're done and just kind of, and try it.
Well, there's no way I can really hear it unless I'm on Zoom, is there? Like I have to already be in the Zoom in order to
Well,
hear how
you're in the Zoom with us now. So after we're done, why don't you try it then?
Yeah.
Okay. And if it sounds rotten, somebody will let me know.
Oh, it's going to sound amazing.
I'm going to run and get it right now so I won't forget.
All right. Shall we get started then? Carl?
I
Derek?
think.
It's a little.
No, hi, Jacqueline.
Hi,
We're
Jacqueline.
still waiting for a few people. We're going to start at 6 o'clock as usual.
Yeah, we're
But
just waiting for.
we're wondering if Joe Lunchbucket wants to read this evening because we had a cancellation of one of our features.
Yeah, if you've got room for me, I'll read.
Yeah, we have room.
Yeah, we're going to have extra time tonight. So
We have
we'll
room
just
for
do the
you.
list. And we're still looking for Pat Buckna and Kathleen Vance.
Pat's here.
Here.
Pat's here.
I'm
Okay,
here.
well, pardon me. I apologize, Pat. I know Kathleen Vance and David Kipling. I'm sorry.
They're not here yet. No.
They're our reader 3 and 4. So we're just watching for them and we'll be ready to start at 6 as usual.
Okay.
Sounds
Yes. No. There they are.
good. There's Kathy.
Just right after we say their name and they're coming.
Hello there, Tony, by the way. I don't know if anyone said hi to you earlier, but
Yes, I did.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Tony.
Tony was I was the first one to say hi because he was the first one on before you guys got on. We're not the first one on, but
We're so happy to see you here, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. It's good
yeah,
to be
where,
here.
where are you at tonight?
I'm just across from Fort Langley.
Okay.
Yeah, our people have been here about 10,000 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, on this island.
Beautiful.
I always tell kids that I look pretty good for 10,056. Yeah. Like, really? No.
okay, Kathy and Dave. David, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
coming.
We
Hi,
can't
welcome,
see you.
guys.
Oh, they
They
unmuted
must
for a
not
second.
be available to come on video yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
still have to comb their hair or something.
There-
There they are.
There we go. There's our
Hey,
June and
Kathy.
July guys. So just if you guys ever want to be at the top of the list, usually it goes by the way you email. That's how you get on the list, at the top of the list. So if you email me, you like say the 8th person to email me, you might get to be number 8 reader, but that's how it works. If I'm on top of it, this time I wasn't very on top of it. I've got
Usually, but
people in there.
sometimes if people are from the far east,
yes.
the easter you are, the earlier you need to be bumped up. So
Yes. Well, and Jennifer is on there pretty good up there to the close. I think she's.
great. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you.
I tried to I tried to put that in there, and I was meant to have her up a little closer, but I was mind boggled and forgot to put some of the names into the Alberni.ca until the very last minute.
Jennifer, is this your first time with us or
With
your
this
second?
one, I was giving you credit for my being here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you are.
Yes, Jacqueline's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Jacqueline,
Carl, the best.
likes to recruit people for us, so I like that.
Oh, yes.
So, and if you enjoyed this tonight, Jennifer, you can recruit people too. Just tell all your friends, say, hey,
Yeah.
come on out. If they read or if they don't read, we like to have listeners. We need listeners all the time.
There
Absolutely.
you go. For some reason in London, there is no online open mic. So I connect into Stratford and Owen Sound and British Columbia.
Why not?
Nice. That's great.
Wow.
And it's a really fun way to infuse some fresh perspective by, having people read from farther away. It's nice. It's really great. Plus, very often someone will read and they'll bring friends, either to listen or participate. And
There's
we really want to open our doors.
Mini she-her.
There you go. It's been cool connecting.
Oh, we got another one that I don't know. Lisa.
Welcome, Lisa. And there comes Bruce Hornidge.
There's Lisa. Hello, Lisa.
Hi.
Hey,
Lisa,
how
are you
doing?
going to read or are you just listening tonight?
I'm just listening.
Okay.
Awesome. We're so happy to have you here.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question, guys. Sometimes my internet is unstable and I'll freeze. So when I'm reading, if it does that, maybe you could stop me and just let me know, maybe, or should I just keep going? I'm not sure what to do.
Very
good
often,
question.
very often when people freeze, it's not for too terribly long.
Yeah.
So, and we're pretty tolerant. Everybody's aware that that happens. Something that you can do at your end is to make sure there's nobody else in the house that's, say, on online video games or something that takes up a lot of bandwidth.
And hopefully no one's
No, it's just
you.
my
but-
cat.
Well, I hope the cat does not know how to play games or get on the internet.
No, but she is really noisy. She has separation anxiety. My husband's gone for 2-3 months. And so sometimes when she wakes up, it's like, meow, meow. So it could be an interesting background music for you.
Aw.
Oh, there you go. She wants to help you read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You want to miss out.
Hello, Bruce. I did ask him to unmute.
So Jackie, I did respond to your chat message there.
Oh, good.
Finally, she got my response there.
Hey, that's a fine idea. I like that idea.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I've got one I've been working on.
All right.
So
I think that's fantastic.
Hello there, Bruce. Are you going to read tonight, Bruce?
I can if you have an opening.
Do we have an opening? We always have an opening for you, Bruce, and everybody else.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi. So Bruce, we'll put you in as reader 8, I guess. Is that good, Carl?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I have trouble
Perfect.
getting
Sorry,
on this
Derek.
thing.
I've been busy. It's Char here. I've been busy numbering them in the participant list. I can tell you what I've got down now.
Oh, okay.
R7 is Vicki Drybrough. Then R8 is Jackie Carmichael. R9 is Joe Lunchbucket. And R10 is Bruce Hornidge.
Right, thank you.
And we just have the one feature today. Unfortunately, we have a rain check for feature 1, Jacqueline Mitchard.
Okay.
So, and then of course we've got Derek Hanebury. We've got you taking up the end for us.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a full story tonight, a little bit
At the
longer.
end, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Okay.
Should be fun. Okay.
And again, thank you to Jacqueline for stepping in for me to introduce Derek when I can't see and or find emails.
Nobody likes the whole "where are my glasses" thing. It's a pain in the butt, right?
Well, they're on my face, but these aren't the really right ones.
Yeah, I gotcha. I do.
I
had to
can't
get
wait till
special
they're here.
glasses for computers. So
Jackie, I was telling Karl about when I lost my glasses when I was on the plane to Italy and I was all by myself. I fell asleep and they fell off and they rolled several seats behind.
no.
Oh my God, the terror, absolute terror. I couldn't see anything, right? But I had this wonderful steward that just kept crawling on the ground looking for them and found them. But the feeling was absolutely terrifying.
Well, hopefully that guy still flies the planes, or not flies, is still doing that. So we can always, if we see him, we'll say, hey,
Yeah, he was a really
thank
nice
you
guy.
for finding these glasses.
Oh, I could have kissed him, I'll tell you.
Well, you should have. I don't think your husband would have mind.
Yeah.
That
Bad
was
enough.
pre-COVID days, so.
There you go.
Bad enough arriving in a foreign country where you don't speak the language, but when you're arriving blind as well.
Oh yeah.
double challenge. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah.
As long as you found them and they didn't get
Nice.
stepped on. That's the worst part, is when they get stepped on.
Oh yes. Well,
I always put them on the ground. I'm always afraid that
Yeah.
I'll do that at home. I usually try to put them on the counter, but I sometimes forget and go, oh no, I'm gonna step right on them.
You want to hear what's even worse? When you pay $700 or $800 for deluxe eyeglasses and you can't see out of them. I take them off because I see better to read without them.
Oh no.
Okay,
They're
just
okay
sorry.
for distance, but they're not good for.
Hello,
Still see better close up without them.
Dylan. I'm probably saying
Suki,
that-
that's Suki there, I think. She's got her dog
Okay.
Frankie up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome,
I'm so
Suki.
excited. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, but I haven't had a shower, so I'm gonna keep my.
That's okay. Are you just listening tonight?
Yes, that's
Hey,
that's the thing.
you're on Zoom. We can't smell you.
Exactly
That
right.
is true. I'm happy about that. Zoom does.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, great. I'll just have to hide your picture of Frankie from Bond, or you'll start barking. My dog plays with Suki's dog all the time at the park. So.
Aw. Thank you,
Good
Derek,
bugs.
for figuring out who that was.
Yeah.
So I could just sort of see the last name.
So Jennifer, you said you're in London, Ontario, in the Forest City?
That's right. Yes, you know.
My old hometown, man. Yeah, I was there for the first 18 years of my life.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Haven't been back for a few, but I did go back about 4 years ago, and the city's pretty much doubled since I was there in population and size.
It's pretty big. Yeah, it's like 400,000 now.
Wow.
But downtown was still so familiar. Amazing how many of the old buildings are still there. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and they're they're digging streets up and doing this and that and the other thing, and some things are changing. But
yeah,
I'm way out on the West End in Byron.
Okay, yeah. Well, I part of my life was in Oak Ridge Park, just across the bridge there from Byron. Yeah,
across the river.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Byron's a great little village down there. That's a nice spot.
Yeah, I'm way out there.
So they're from someone from Ontario. And where's Lisa from?
I'm from Victoria.
Oh, there we go. Where are you from?
Victoria.
Victoria. Well, welcome.
Yeah. All right. I see the electric mermaid taking over the screen. I think we're getting ready to start.
So go ahead there, Jackie.
Yeah, it's Char here, and I just want to welcome everybody, and I'm just setting up the spotlights. We can do up to 9 now. It's quite fun. So everyone knows the difference between spotlight and gallery view. So I am choosing which people to spotlight, like to feature on the spotlights. And there's Karl. Karl's been chatting with you all week. And then I'm going to look for Jacqueline Carmichael. There she is. So she's our artistic director, and of course Derek Hanebury, our MC. So I'm going to duck out here and invite you all to have a wonderful evening. And we're, it's 6 o'clock Pacific time. We're ready to go. Take her away.
Great. Well, thank you very much to our Zoom producer that you just met. That's Charlene Patterson. And Charlene Zoom produces from her wonderful venue here with a beautiful ocean view in Port Alberni, Vancouver Island. Char's Landing is the name of her hostel and venue. So we're just very grateful for that. I'd like to introduce our host, Derek Hanebury. He's an island writer of poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction. And Derek's first book, poetry, Nocturnal Tonglen with Ecstasis Press, was released in 2006. His poems and stories have been published in many magazines and on CBC Radio. And his first novel, Ginger Goodwin, Beyond the Forbidden Plateau with Arsenal Pulp, went to a second printing. Derek has a master's in creative writing from UBC. He taught writing at North Island College until 2017, and he offers private mentorship and public workshops for writers and is available for readings. So thank you, Derek. Take it away.
All right. And thank you, Jackie, for that introduction. Yeah, great to be here, everybody. And I want to just start out by saying that we're zooming to you from the Huputcheseth and Sishat First Nations unceded territories here on Vancouver Island, beautiful Port Alberni. We're grateful to them for sharing their ancestral lands with us. And glad to be here tonight, and I think I've met just about everybody who's online already before the show, which is really nice to kind of get a sense of who's out there. I was talking to a friend today how there are these moments on Zoom where I actually get this feeling like, yeah, man, we're really getting a feel of community that we are also dearly missing in this time of COVID. You know, when we're used to getting together with people and reading face to face. So it's really great to have so many of you here tonight online. And just a reminder, if you're feeling generous and so inclined, that Char's Landing can always use a helpful donation to keep the doors open during this time of COVID. And just etransfer at charslanding.com is the easiest way to do it. And just anything you can spare to keep her going would be much appreciated, I'm sure. We're so grateful for her doing the Zoom hosting, and of course for having Char's Landing itself, our little cultural center for the arts here in Port Alberni. Nice to see Luma up there in the rafters at Char's Landing. That's our mascot, the Electric Mermaid. Looking forward to the day we can go back in there and be together and see her in person. But for now, she's joining us as a photograph that Micah Gardner took, who is our resident photographer. I don't think Micah's on tonight, but maybe he'll join us a little bit later. Anyway, he often drops in. So just a reminder, we're a welcoming, diverse group here, and the only thing we draw the line on is we're not open for any slagging or hate speech or anything like that. It's just we're not going to tolerate it here. It's a place for welcoming diversity and celebrating it. So I don't think I have anything to worry about with the people in line here, but always good to put that out there at a time. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what everybody's got to read tonight, and especially Tony, our featured reader. Unfortunately, our other featured reader, I don't know if you heard, is ill and unable to read with us. So I'm going to fill in with a story a little bit later on. But we've got a lineup with some new people, which is always exciting to get fresh readers coming on board, sharing their work. Jennifer, coming all the way from Ontario, from my old hometown of London, is going to share some poetry. And Jennifer, I don't know if you use the chat at all, but you can throw your web address up in there so people know where to find your work or to get a hold of you.
I'll do that right now. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, super. So, and I see others are putting their websites up in there and everything, and where their books are available. So that's always a good idea to do. And a reminder, you can always actually save that chat at the end of the night or at any point, just hitting the 3 dots down beside the file thing in the chat bar. That'll allow you to save the chat, and then you can have that for a record to go to those websites or wherever you need to go. What else am I missing here? There was one other thing I know that I was going to talk about, which is eluding me at the moment. If I try not to think about it, I'm sure it'll come back to me. Boy, Jackie, what have I missed? There's something there, I know. No, we're all good. Oh, I know what it is, yes. The other thing is Char does record these. And so if you're wanted in all 10 provinces and the territories and 50 states, you might want to just put a picture up, but otherwise know that it's being recorded. And she usually posts the recordings on YouTube afterwards, and you can subscribe to her Char's Landing YouTube channel and send people there, or go have a look at yourself. And she'll also sometimes post little segments of the readings on her Facebook page, or on the Electric Mermaid page or Char's Landing page. So just, you're forewarned. So hopefully everybody's okay with that. All right, I think we're just about ready to get started, and I'm going to introduce first Mickey Findlay. And Mickey's coming to us from Arrington, right, Mickey? And she's got a 10-minute slot tonight. So that's one thing we do. We have the sort of the featured readers that get 15, 20 minutes or so, but we also, with our regular readers, allow an occasional 10-minute spotlight spot. And so Mickey has got one of those treasured spots tonight, so take it away.
Thank you, Derek. So I just wanted to say quickly, I'm taking a wonderful writing course by Allison Waring. It's strictly memoir. So I have 3 pieces, 2 stories and a poem that I'd like to share that are all basically memoir. One is a little depressing. I'll warn you now. The second one is happy, and the third one is sexy. So here goes. This is called Too Late. Was I too loud? Oh, sorry. Started for ignore that. Okay. I'm in trouble again. Was I too loud? Did I say something wrong? I can't recall. I try desperately to remember. Maybe if I figure out, I can say what I'm sorry before it's too late. Suddenly, my mother kicks me under the metal-rimmed restaurant table. A sharp, piercing stab that brings tears to my eyes. Then another. I wince as shooting pains ricochet through my leg. Too late. Her piercing glare seethes and writhes with that all too familiar, "You better smile like everything's okay," look. I dare not react or it will happen again. And worse, when we get home. Anger and hurt swell up in my throat as I quickly look away and stare at nothing. A single teardrop teeters on the edge of my eyelid, but I quickly wipe it away before she sees. I used to cry. I thought it would make her stop, but it didn't. I must not show emotion, or everyone will know. That's how the game is played. No one must ever know. Nearly every table in the restaurant is occupied. I open my mouth to cry out, but no sound escapes. I'm silently screaming, but no one hears. How could they? My face remains frozen, not even a flinch. I may be only 10, but I am an excellent actress. Sit up straight, don't talk, do as I say, never interrupt. You'll eat what I order you. I gag on the liver and onions, and I choke on my shame. Lively chatter drones on at the table next to us. The burly, gentle-faced man cracks a joke. It must be funny because laughter erupts in my ears. A middle-aged couple in the corner table turn to see what the commotion is about, then smile as they watch the happy, carefree children giggle, wriggle, and bounce in the chairs. I wish I could be at that table. No one comes to my rescue, for I have played the game too well. I have everyone fooled. I am invisible. I may only be 10, but I am an excellent actress. I'm in trouble again. We've just finished dinner and the phone rings. It's my friend Judy from up the road. She's upset and wants to talk. After a few minutes pass, a stabbing pain shoots through my ankle and my leg. What did I do? I cringe as my eyes start to water. I stare wide-eyed at my assailant. Get off the phone. Through clenched teeth, my mother hisses and spits at me under her scowling breath. You have homework to do, move it. But it's all done, Mom. I finished it at school, honest. I said, get off the phone now. My hand cups the mouthpiece in hopes my friend can't hear. I'm trying, I insist, but Judy is upset. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I won't be long, I promise. Her piercing glare seethes and writhes with that familiar, "You better sound like everything's okay" look. I have to get off the phone quickly or she will lash out at me again. Too late. Get off the phone. Kick. Now. Kick. Did you hear me? Kick, kick, kick. I try desperately to avoid the assaults, moving, shifting, shrinking, turning, contorting, all while trying to sound normal and nonchalant. My face is hot with shame and embarrassment. It's getting difficult to breathe or pretend. I can hear myself apologizing. I'm sorry, Judy, I have to go. My lip quivers as I try to keep my voice from shaking. I can't let on that I'm in pain. That isn't the way to play the game. I may only be 13, but I am an excellent actress. I'm in trouble again. I'm just getting home from a date with a boy from my church youth group, and I look at the clock on the stove and I realize I'm a few minutes late. The house is dark, so I don't see her at first. She is waiting for me behind the front door. She switches on the light and glares at me. A piercing glare that seethes and writhes with that familiar, "You'd better obey me if you know what's good for you" look. "I'm sorry, Mama, I didn't realize. I won't be late again." Nothing, not a word. A shudder runs down my spine. Her eyes are daggers as she quietly and methodically removes her watch and places it on the kitchen table. Next, her ring. She rolls up her sleeves, her eyes never leaving mine. Too late. The first punch lands in my stomach. "I told you what would happen if you were late." Another punch. "How dare you disobey me?" 2 more punches. "Are you going to be late again?" My mind is exploding, screaming, "I hate you, stop." But no words come out. I want to cry, but I won't give her the satisfaction. I may only be 15, but I'm an excellent actress. Something inside me snaps. I watch in disbelief as my hand comes out of nowhere and slaps her in the face. "Enough," I shout. She stumbles backward, confused. Is that a glimmer of fear I see in her eyes? Confusion turns to rage. She hits me even harder, but I don't care. She's slapping and kicking and hitting, her arms flailing everywhere and anywhere in my body they can possibly reach, but I no longer feel anything, and I don't back down. Suddenly, it's all over. She's staring at me as if she's seeing me for the very first time. I am no longer invisible. I am no longer paralyzed. My mother never hits me again. I may only be 15, but I have found my voice. It's not too late. Sorry, I try to get through that story without crying and I almost did it. Okay, something a little more cheerful. Thank you. This is called Our Secret Society. Grandpa Henry is a character. A self-made man, he left home at 15 years old to work in a fish cannery. In spite of his limited education, his wit is sharp and his resolve tenacious. He and I are members of a secret society. He loves pulling harmless pranks with me as his eager and willing accomplice. Grandma Gertie is not as impressed with his shenanigans, however, but I worship him, not because he's perfect, but because he makes me feel like I am. Every summer, my mother and I make the 8-hour journey to visit my grandparents in Penticton, BC. Generally, I'm not a happy child, but during these 2 magical weeks, I experience moments of pure joy. One would think I'd be bored silly, sitting on my grandpa's lap as he shares his boundless knowledge of the stock market's inner workings. Not so. I listen intently to every word, regardless of the fact that I haven't the slightest inkling of what he's talking about. But he takes time to include me in his world, which is what I so desperately need. When I'm around him, I feel important. Much to my grandmother's dismay and exasperation, Grandpa Henry will sometimes sneak down the creaky wooden steps to the chilly basement cellar, where he picks out a dusty bottle of his famous homemade honey mead. He creeps silently back up to the kitchen, winks at me, then proceeds to pour me some of that velvety sweet amber liquid into one of Gertie's treasured china teacups. I'm not sure if the cup is supposed to act as a ruse, but nevertheless, She always catches on. Eyebrows furrowed, green eyes glaring, she chastises him profusely. Henry, you should not be giving liquor to our granddaughter. I am firmly convinced that aggravating Grandma is the reason he does it. He cannot conceal the satisfied grin that spreads across his face, nor the hearty chuckle, both of which only add to her annoyance. From time to time, Grandpa and I will go on a crime spree. Along the river's edge, we saunter, hand in hand, then pause under a towering apricot tree. He utters the secret society shushing sound as he plucks 6 delectable golden-fleshed orbs from their limbs, which we squirrel away in our pockets. We giggle and scurry away as quickly as Grandpa's wobbly old legs will carry him. We find a grassy spot, warm grassy spot to plunk ourselves down and happily devour our smuggled contraband. Juice dribbling down my chin, I ask, should we be doing this, Grandpa? To which he replies, anything hanging over the fence is fair game. He winks at me. Further confirmation that I am a privileged covert member of his secret organization. We are only able to visit my grandparents once a year, and for far too brief a time. But these visits are my lifeline. I know that the minute the door to that quaint peach green house on Burn Street closes behind me, so will my feelings of joy, safety, and acceptance. But I also know I can survive anything, just knowing Grandpa Henry is in my corner. Although his rationale may be a tad skewed, Grandpa Henry always reminds me of the thing I need to know most. I matter.
Aw.
All I can see is me. It's very not good. Hold on here. Okay, I just have a quick poem and then I'm done.
We're actually a little over the 10-minute mark.
Oh,
there.
are we? Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Do you
no
want
problem.
to save that one for next time?
No problem. So much for my my timing properly.
That's all right. It's a lot of people read fast when they're doing it in public. So and you kept your pace nice. So it's all good. All good. Enjoyed that very much. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So our next reader, Pat Buckna, is gonna tee up the featured reader to come after Pat. So Tony's on deck, but let's hear from you first, Pat. Go ahead. Oh, you got the instrument out. We're gonna get some entertainment.
So I usually read nonfiction material from my memoir, but instead tonight I'm going to give you a song. I haven't been very productive in my songwriting over the pandemic, but this one fell into my hands last week, so I thought I would share it with you. It's called Save Your Breath. Tell me how you can't be free, can't do everything you want. I don't want to hear how you got it so bad, much worse off than you thought. What I want to know is why you don't care about me or anyone else. How you think you have the right to whine about your rights when you don't give a damn about mine. Don't knock on my door, don't shop in my store, don't stand behind me in line. Don't huff, don't puff, keep your comments to yourself. Save your breath so I can save mine. I don't want to hear how little I know or how the whole thing's just a scam. Don't tell me how don't tell me how there's nothing to fear. What a great big sucker I am. 'Cause when you get sick, I wonder what you'll say and just what you're gonna do when you infect happen to you. So don't knock on my door, don't shop at my store, don't stand behind me in line. Don't huff, don't puff, keep your comments to yourself. Save your breath so I can save mine. So go right ahead, gather with your buddies, just make sure to don't wear a mask. Stand all together, the closer the better, just see how long you last. Go take that vacation, jump on a plane, just make sure you don't come back. It's essential that you travel, the further the better. Wave out the window, I'll be sure to wave back. So don't knock on my door, don't stop in my store, don't stand behind me in line. Don't huff, don't puff, keep your comments to yourself. Save your breath so I can save mine. Just save your breath so I can save mine.
Awesome, Pat. Thank you, man. That was fun. And timely as
Thanks.
well. Very much. All right, we're moving on to our featured reader now. So Tony Dandurand is a Kwantlen storyteller from the Kwantlen First Nation located on the Fraser River, and he's also director of the Kwantlen Cultural Center. And he has been a storyteller since he was a very young man, apparently, and one of the lucky ones to be made aware of that when he was a young man, I think, so he could hone his talents. And his talent and passion for words and sharing stories has followed him through the many journeys of his life. And so he's an accomplished poet, playwright, archaeologist, and proud father of 3 children. He's got a diploma in performing arts from Algonquin College, studied theater and direction at the University of Ottawa. So you've produced several plays, Tony, for adults and youth, including works as a playwright in residence for the Museum of Civilization in Hull, and a radio script that was produced on CBC Radio. So the author of no less than 12 books of poetry. I bow at your feet for producing that many. Fantastic. So we're really looking forward to your reading tonight, Tony. Welcome to Electric Mermaid. Please take the mic and run with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to read first poem. I'm going to read some small short poems. This book's called I Will Be Corrupted. It was published by Guernica Press. Sorry. I have 2 biopics, this one for adults, and then I have one without a cigarette for my children's plays and stuff. So I'm not big on photographs. So anyways, this poem's called Outdone by His Stories. I was in my first fight at the age of 4. Sorry. And I took a good beating as some white boys did not like my brown skin, and so I waited for them to get off the school bus, and I chased them down and swung a hockey stick at them as tears were rolling down my face as my mother yelled for me to stop, but I kept swinging. And from that day forward, I knew I was an Indian, and my skin was a bother to those who thought they were better than me. And they were, as they ran home, all with bruises on their arms and legs. And when I stopped swinging, I walked back home to get the beating I knew I would get from my father. In high school, I would fight with anyone, and some I won, but most I lost, and it gave me peace of mind as I bled from a torn lip or a cut eye, and all would come and cheer us on as the blood fest was the highlight of the day. And I kept fighting until I dropped out of school and never was a legend, but I knew from that moment on that I would probably fight until I die. Later, I was hired to fight in clubs, and I trained every day because I knew that if I got caught and pounded out, I would be out of a job. So every fight, I destroyed the other man and threw them out the door and onto the street. And I was doing okay until I fought a biker from a well-known club, and I kicked the shit out of him. But in the end, I realized that dying for $10 an hour was not worth it. Today, I do not fight anymore as I walk away in hope that I will not ever have to fight unless my kids are threatened or I am threatened. Then I will go for it. But these days, I am no longer in any situations that can lead to a fight. So I guess I am at peace with this violent world we live in. And I sit back and watch the wars go on. And I wonder if I would ever raise a hand to another human. But I do not, as my mother screams for me to stop. And I did, Mom. I did stop. Snap, snap, snap. So we do a poetry reading, snap. I don't have any funny stuff, so you have to. This one's from a, a book called I Want. It was published by Ursula from Leaf Press. And the front cover is a painting by a cousin of mine named Brandon Gabriel, who's an amazing artist. It's called, this is called A Sunday. Pissed outside, not sure why, marking my turf, too lazy to go inside. Smoked 3 smokes before 6 a.m., drank a double-double, put on same pair of rotten shoes, threw on same torn sleeveless t-shirt, tossed on an old torn baseball hat, felt the wind, watched dried leaves scatter, noticed an ant with food running across the driveway, smoked 2 smokes before 9 a.m., heated up the cold double-double in the microwave, put the dog out, walked to my car, got in and backed out, drove away like I had somewhere to go, smoked 4 smokes before 6 p.m., did not eat, did not sleep, watched the clock, checking every half hour of every hour, smoked 3 smokes before 11 p.m., coughed until I cried, turned the TV on, watched it till I had enough, took meds, 2 of the good ones, 1 of the next best, had a dream about 8 smokes before I woke up, took the dog out, pissed against a tree, lit a smoke before 6 a.m. as the ants of the earth devoured me. Everybody okay? You're okay? Okay. Just. This is from I got so many books, man. This is crazy. Anyways, this is called Shalam. Shalam in our language, we called them doctors, but Shalams were healers. And this one's published by Mowenzi House out east. This is called The Shine Brings You Home. I've changed and find myself on a highway wetted with the tears of our lost. I am here to meet the man who has taken all the women and put them on the side of the road in a puddle, by a tree, in a ditch, or slowly floating to the bottom of a creek. I get a ride and I remember the truck in every detail and the smells of the dead encircle this man as he smokes and opens his window. He never looks at me. I do not see fear or sorrow from this man, and he is not from here, so he says. And he tells me of his family, his children, and the cost of gasoline. I look at him as he appears to be on fire, and the heat of him begins to burn my fingers as I reach out and touch him. And all he sees and has seen evaporates into a hot mist and falls out the window as he blows smoke from his cigarette out into the world he has forsaken. And when I get out of the truck, he waves a tattooed arm at me as the medicine I have given him begins to carry into his blood. And all the women circle around him and they cry and they scream. And it is the screams that envelop him. And he accepts the disease I have given him by the touch of my hand. I have erased him. As the women cry and scream and This opens up the sky as the shine brings you home. Stab, stab. Another book, another time in my life. This is called Looking into the Eyes of My Forgotten Dreams. And it was published by a native publishing house out of Cape Croker, Ontario, called Kigadance. I think it was 98, something like that. My mother was 5 when she was put on a train here in Fort Langley, and she was sent to residential school in Cooper Island. And then she graduated when she was 18 at St. Mary's, which is just up the road in Mission, BC. And so I wrote some poems about St. Mary's. This is called St. Mary's number 4. 1955, down by the river, putt and mutt fishing, quiet Sunday afternoon. All the chores have been finished. Catholics are in the field searching for lovely flowers to pick, to smell, to taste. Putt hooks the first one, her little arms holding on, holding, pulling, pulling. The fish snaps up into the air and looks around, its eyes staring right at her. Little Indian girl, little fisherman, little gift from above. Her hands grasp the pole, her eyes widen, her breath quickens. Flowers picked out of earth, snapped at the stem. Nose is sniffing the air, searching for the scent of God. All his creations, now devoured by humans. Flowers, fish, little Indians with crosses around their necks. Flowers, lovely flowers, fish. It jumps once more and snaps the line, going down to the bottom, down where the water is calm. It rests, swallows the fat worm, unaware of the creation, unaware. Mutt gets a nibble, the hairs on his arm stand up. Catholics singing in the fields, songs about glory and salvation. Mutt dances the worm, singing his song beneath his breath, soft enough so the nuns do not hear him. He shuffles his feet, trying to remember his dance. Worm dances beneath the water. The salmon spots it, swims towards it. Hunger, dance, song, shuffling of bare brown feet. Fields of flowers, fields of salvation. River, water. Fish takes the worm, fields of song. Worm becomes a hook. The salmon snaps its head to the left and then to the right. Hook goes deeper. Mutt pulls, his little Indian arms pulling, his song getting louder, his feet quickening to the beat of the drum inside his head. He pulls, he sings, he shuffles his feet like the old days, like the days back home. He pulls the fish out of the water. He takes a small club-like branch and snaps the fish on top of the head twice. Fish stops. Mutt pulls the hook and what is left of the worm out of the fish's mouth, drops it back into the river. Fields of flowers, songs of glory and salvation. 2 Indian kids on the river's edge, 1955. Worms on hooks, songs, drum, paint, memories of home, silently breathing songs of glory. Did I get 10 minutes or 15? I wasn't sure.
15.
Right on.
Yeah.
I got 4 more minutes. I can
Keep
do
going.
it. I can do it. Okay.
I could listen to you all night, man. Keep going.
Okay, come on down. Next one, this is one of my newest books. It's called, what's it called? The East Side of It All. It's called, and it's published by Nightwood Editions. And they sent me stickers because it's been shortlisted for the Griffin Award this year. I've already spent the money in my head. So I have a nice villa in Mexico and a new fishing boat, but I haven't won. I never win awards. I'm always the bridesmaid, but it's totally honoring and awesome, humbling to be shortlisted. This is called The Sturgeon's Lover. In the deepest part of the river, there lived a great sturgeon, and she swam along the bottom and fed upon the dead who had fallen. She was about 300 years old, and when she was full, she came to the surface and jumped as high as she could, and all the males came to her, and she kissed each male and let them have her. Months later, she quietly went to her favorite part of the river, and there she released her eggs in the millions, and then began again to swim the bottom and to search for any new bodies that had fallen from upriver, which she feasted upon with her old, softly kissed lips. The legend goes that a fisherman had fallen into the waters and was drowning, when the giant sturgeon came to him and asked him for a kiss. He agreed, and the two fell in love, and together they would feed upon all the food at the bottom of the river. One day her eggs came to life and created the people across the water. The people lived there for centuries, and the sturgeon and the man would visit from time to time, bringing them food to survive the cold, wet winters, until the people too walked into the water and fell to the bottom as the man kissed his lover. Today, we do not fish for sturgeon as their numbers have been decimated by overfishing and loss of spawning grounds. Whenever I catch a sturgeon in my net, I let her go, and she always turns back and smiles as she flicks her mighty tail and splashes me. My son always laughs as I stand there stunned and wet, while the great sturgeon slowly swims away and turns back to blow us a kiss. We both wipe our lips as the great sturgeon falls to the bottom of the water. There, waiting for her, is her lover. He kisses her one last time. She cries as she begins to eat him. Okay. I got one more, and then that'll be it for me. Okay. I would like to say thank you to the nuns and the priest who abused me when I was 6. Thank you for doing that to me, and if you'd like to see how I am, just look out your window as I pass by, because I know where you live, old man. And to the sisters, I would like to thank you for toughening me up for later in life it was needed. And I shook off all comers, and I took the pain you gave me when you stepped on my 6-year-old brown hand and told me to be still and that God was watching me. And when I finally confronted that old man, I slapped him across the face, and in his eyes I could see the lust he had for me those decades before. And now he weeps as the pain in his face changes, and I walk away still that little brown boy in need of comfort. And I know that I am who I am, and to you abusers, you cannot have me. You cannot destroy me. I can do that all by myself, thank you. To the men who used me when I was 9 or 10, thank you for scarring me and giving me nightmares, as they still haunt me here at 56 in my little office where I punch out poems to soothe the soul, where I can relive the torture of being touched by men. Thank you, and I will visit one day and go up to you, slap you, kick you, bite you, end you. The music changes, and I have some new kick-ass headphones, and I can hear all the greats and remember times when I was 15 and drinking and doing LSD and tripping in a bar and watching a Pink Floyd cover band, and they were awesome. And the bar was lit with very cool lights, and I was tripping. And when it was over, the house lights came on, and it was then that I realized that the rest of the bar that night was full of fully patched outlaw bikers, and there I was, 15 and long hair and brown skinned and tripping, but they let me float on out of there and into the streets, and me and my friends who were also tripping, we floated home, and as I am here now, I put on some blues and write some poems about this or that. I wanted to say thank you to all the girls I knew when I was 14, and we all hung out on the weekends, and we did our best to be as drunk as we could, and They were such gentle moments. I remember being with a girl and we made love and giggled as those around us were so wasted and they puked and they pissed themselves, and we still conquered our teenage years with the best of them. And even today, I remember each girl's name, and I remember how we made love and how we drank until early morning. And I just want to thank them for loving me when I was 14 and so skinny and brown and long-haired and not even sure I liked myself back then, and I'm sure I do not like me now. The edges are creepy, the hair is gone, the eyes are crooked, so is the nose. I weep myself to write a poem for all you girls, even though I know I have been forgotten. Thank you so much for inviting me, you guys.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you, man. That was an incredible reading. Beautiful, beautiful work. Very, very powerful. And if you're all right with it, I'd like to open it up for a bit of Q&A, if that's okay. If people have some questions, yeah.
I didn't know there's gonna be homework. Come on, you gotta.
There'll be no quizzes. I promise, no quizzes.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
Sure.
So did you come into the poetry later on in your life, man? Did you?
Yeah, I was an alcoholic by the age of 19 and a drug addict by the age of 26. And then I woke up and went to college and took a creative writing course and wrote a short story. And the teacher told me to keep writing. So I kept writing from then. But I was studying to be a famous stage actor. So I went to theater school, but I wasn't very good at it. I wasn't devoted, but I had been writing. And as soon as I graduated, writing began to open doors and brought me here to where I am now. Like tonight's another doorway for me to take through writing, you know, and yeah, I take them.
Yeah. Wow, and congratulations on the Griffin nomination, man. That's so well deserved and fantastic.
Yeah. I wasn't like I said, I've been up for awards, but I've never won. But then I started reading about this Griffin Award, and it's like, holy smokes, that's like to the winner goes 65K, and even if I don't win, I still get 10 grand. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But like I said, I now own a villa in Mexico and a beautiful boat in my head. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, you just never know, man. It might be your time. It just might be your time. Anybody have a question they'd like to pass along here?
I do.
Jackie, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Tony. That's just wonderful. I'm so grateful that you're here with us. So first of all, but then my question, I guess, is your work is so personal.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get into the place where you share such personal stuff? It's amazing personal stuff, and it's just so powerful because of that.
Yeah, I just I don't know. So I write every day. I'm up at 5, and right now I'm working on, because I'm teaching so much in schools. I wasn't a storyteller up till about a couple of years ago when I took on the label as the Indigenous storyteller at Vancouver Public Library. And I told this story before where I remember my first day, I got my pass and my picture, and on it had my name, Joseph Dandurand. And then my title was FN storyteller. I was like, yeah, that's what I am. I'm an FN storyteller. And they were like, oh my God, no, we have to change that. So, no, I love it. I'm an FN storyteller. But yeah, so right now I'm working on more short stories for kids, and I'm always thinking for the next, when I'm coming to the end of a project, I'm always thinking about the next one. So when I sit down and write poems, I usually write one a day, and right now I'm writing one short story a day. And I don't know where they come from, and we're taught that we teach our children that each of us has a gift, and I have friends that are gifted. They can hear songs and they just start drumming them and singing them, and they have no idea where they come from. And all our Kwantlen oral history was lost, so there's nothing for me. There are very limited stories for me to pull from. And what I like to think, what I teach children is that what my gift is, that these stories come from somewhere, and I'm able to grab them and then use my emotions and, you know, my thoughts to create pieces. And yeah, it's scary though. It's terrifying, actually. Yeah, because you're so alone, right? And it's funny with like COVID. As a writer, I have no excuse but not to write, right? Because we're isolated. But my publisher's getting leery of me because I've sent them like 7 manuscripts of poetry and 4 new manuscripts of short stories. But I can't stop writing. I can't stop writing, so I'm not going to stop writing.
You're my
No.
hero. You are my
Yeah,
hero.
fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much.
prolific.
Yeah, thank you. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I can see it totally becoming a play too. Some of your stuff would be awesome.
Yeah, I have children's plays that are out there. One was turned into a film that we're sending to schools. They rent it, and yeah, it's called Thawaxia. Thawaxia was she has other names, Sonokwa, and she was a cannibal woman, or she's also called a basket ogress. Like she'd pick up children and put it in her basket. And the story is that you teach your children behave, or Thawaxia will get you. Kind of thing.
Here we go.
Oh, I'm taking up way too much of your time.
No, never.
No,
We can listen to you forever.
Yeah.
You're
Have me
awesome.
live. I want to go to the Mermaid when it opens.
Well,
So
yeah.
come visit us in Port Alberni when this is all over. And
I'll be in my new boat. So.
All right, just pull into the harbor. We'll
come in
pick
by
you
boat.
up. All right, perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Much appreciated. That was awesome. All right, our next reader is going to be Kathleen Vance. Kathleen, are you ready to roll there?
All right, I just unmuted.
Oh,
Okay.
All right, you're good now. I can hear you.
Okay, last month I read part 1, in which Anne and her friends are telling their teacher they don't want any more bomb drills at school. And when that doesn't work, Mars suggests that they at least use handkerchiefs instead of Kleenexes over their faces. And Anne is surprised when Linda interrupts to say she can help, but she's even more shocked by the teacher's response. But Mrs. Grove didn't yell at Linda and tell her to mind her own business. She said, all right, you children can work on this together during recess, and I promise to tell the school that the drills are frightening you. Quilting, Anne thought. This is not just my grandmother's time. This is from Little House on the Prairie. During recess, Mars told all the children about the handkerchiefs. Mars said she could get everything they needed from Linda and Larry's mother, but each kid should bring in some money if they could help to pay for all the stuff. Anne promised to bring in a dime. She got 25 cents a week allowance from her parents, and milk at school cost 15 cents, and that left 10 cents for church. Anne figured she could just pretend to put her 10 cents into the basket the next Sunday. It would be all right, she thought. God wouldn't want a kid to go without milk, even for a week. The next week it rained at lunchtime, and Mars brought out the material and needles and thread. We have to sew a hem around each square so it won't come apart in the wash. Anne stared at the piece of cloth on her lap. I've never done this before, Mars. You just fold it twice, Anne, and sew it with a blanket stitch. Larry can show you how. He's good at sewing. Larry? But he's a... Mars didn't give Anne a chance to finish her sentence. She stared at Anne and said, so what? It was so hard with Mars. Some things you couldn't argue with her. So Anne turned to Larry and held up her square. So what? Sew this. That's what. Help me sew this, please. Anne smiled at Mars, and Larry both laughed. Mars was right. Larry was really good at sewing, and he was good at teaching sewing. While they sewed, Linda told Anne all about the quilts her mother made. Beautiful quilts out of material no one else wanted. And Anne thought she now knew why Mars liked Linda and Larry so much. Everyone worked together, and soon all the children in the class had their own handkerchiefs. And Anne hoped Mrs. Grove would make the school change its mind about the bomb drills. After school that day, Mars came over to Anne's house. I'm finished here now. I want to go home. You mean back to Linda and Larry's house? No, to my real home. Where's that? Well, it's here, but in a different time. You mean my grandmother's time or little house on the prairie time? No, in a time that hasn't happened yet. You see, I was sitting in my house looking at on my tablet horrible photographs of children from your time who were all under their desks for a bomb drill. And I kept staring at those kids. And then I somehow got trapped inside my tablet and came out at your school. If Linda and Larry's mother hadn't let me stay with them, I don't know what I would have done. But I've told them I need to go home now. I just need to say goodbye to you, Anne. How can you go home? Do you need my writing tablet? I can go get it. No, mine's different. You don't have my kind of tablet. I've been thinking about it a lot. I think I need to find something in your world that will still be there in my world. Anne thought really hard. This was so hard, like a job for Superman, but there were just the two of them. Then Anne thought about the trees. Her grandfather always said the trees would last longer than him. Her dad said so too, except for the Dutch elms, which were almost all gone already. Her grandfather's favorite tree was the butternut. He had told her to go sit on a branch on that tree and remember him after he was gone. He said he would always be there. So Anne and Mars went to the butternut tree and stretched their arms around the big trunk and squeezed as close to the tree as they could until the bark scratched their faces and their arms and the bugs tickled their ears. They smelled the leaves and the dirt and heard the wind in the branches. Anne and Mars held onto the tree and each other tighter and tighter. Take me home, Mars cried. Remember, Mars, if I'm not home for supper, my mother will kill me, were the last words Anne said. And that's the end.
Well, I have to say, I was not expecting that, Kathy. Awesome. That was a great surprise.
That was amazing. I hope you write a book. I would love to read that in a book.
Yeah. I think it could be a whole series of adventures where she falls into her tablet and comes out in different times, you know. It could be wonderful. All right. Is David handy there to take over now?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here.
All yours.
Am I unmuted? Yeah, you can hear me.
You're good. Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay, good. I don't understand the computers at all. This is another one where about Rachel and Tarek. And I sent somebody an email. I cut it down from 7.5 minutes to 5.5. And as a rule, that improves a piece of writing. But I figure if I'd taken any more down, the legs would have fallen off. And if I gave it a title, it might be High Hopes. So here we go. I'm not able to focus, you know, there's something about my face. Okay. Breezing into her mind this grey Monday came a remembered joy from that long ago summer day when she'd been hitchhiking without luck through the industrial hinterlands of Leeds. Rachel's aching arm, her pinching boots and the lumpy rucksack, and her growing fury at the indifferent traffic. Those discomforts had dissolved in the cool bubble of joy soon to come, and she hoped it might return here amid the din and reek of the great hospital entrance. Rachel saw again that Lutheran church on the end of a shabby terrace of Victorian housing. With unadorned stonework and windows of plain glass, the church had stood invitingly 100 yards off the punishing highway, so Rachel had walked over to slump onto its steps. She felt like slumping now, but the gritty concrete of Manchester's Christie Hospital was unforgiving, like the grit in her father's ruined lungs. He won't want to go, warned Tarek, waiting with her by the flower beds for the nurse to bring Tom Blake for his outing. He's always laughed about religion. Rachel's mum was 5 years gone, under the turf in their home village. Now her dad was dying, so Rachel hoped for him to sense that same joy that had surprised her all those years ago. There's a Lutheran church at the end of Wallasey Park, Tarek. Nothing happening here. Why not? Better than the TV lounge or those handicraft projects they do. Let's take him down there for an hour or two to sit in peace, see how it goes. That long ago day in Leeds, the white painted doors creaked open and the pastor had shuffled out, cupping a cigarette and a lighter in his palm, and had grinned ruefully at her. He hadn't shaved. It was 2 in the afternoon, but his smile broke open and he bargained. If I let you sit on my steps, you have to let me smoke, okay? The grass had crackled with heat and insects, and the big rigs droned past on the freeway. Rachel had thanked the man, unlaced her boots, and leaned against the church's notice board. Together they watched the afternoon shimmer above the asphalt. I have a service at 6 o'clock, said the pastor eventually, crushing the glowing end of his cigarette and turning to face Rachel. But you can come into the church if you want. Look around, sit, whatever. I don't bite. Rachel had followed him in and smelled the beeswax, careful with her boots on the flagstones. And suddenly she mouthed the word peace. Her blister, her fight last week with Tina, these stupid tight jeans, the pretending not to be frightened of the drivers and the creeps, all gone. What had happened? Peace. She leaned back in a pew. Peace. The pastor chuckled, watching her over the Bibles he was arranging. Yeah, strange, isn't it? It still gets me every time. And he shook his head, smiling. Now, today, the hospital doors flashed and slid wide, and her dad's wheelchair appeared. Tarek took one handle and Rachel the other, and they pushed together. Twin engine, see, Dad? She jokes. Why did she always overdo it? He was only dying. Twin engine, brum brum, like your old Triumph, eh? His dry mouth moved. Twin cylinder, Rachel. Twin cylinder, 1 engine block, 2 cylinders, the Triumph, not twin engine, you know that. And he cleared his throat. Sorry, love. Tom Blake had lived by and was dying by the mechanical facts of life. The dust from 1,000 clutches and brakes he had religiously ground and adjusted, that dust was with him yet. By the time they reached the church, drizzle was drifting across Wallasey Park, and Rachel and Tarek charged the wheelchair up the ramp and through the doors. A bit of peace and quiet for a while, I thought, Dad. Some peace would be nice. Your wheels are marking the floor, came a loud whisper from a black-suited man dusting an icon. They stopped, and Rachel squatted down by her father's wheelchair. She pointed at the altar stone. Limestone, do you reckon, Dad? Like at the quarry back home? Is that limestone? Tom Blake said nothing. She turned to the heavy metal cross. Brass, or bronze would that be, Dad? Could be bronze. Her voice was running down. Do you think it was cast, or was it machined? Nothing. Rachel touched a linen cushion and looked up to the black joists, waiting still for the peace she had met 20 years ago in Leeds when she was a girl. Rachel, her dad spoke through sticky lips, it's kind of you, but it's not for me. Could we perhaps drive out to Lofty Morton's garage for a look-see? Haven't seen Lofty since he came in to visit me at Christmas. Nothing happening at Lofty's. Tarek tugged at the heavy oak doors, and Rachel pushed her father's chair out into Manchester's bustle. Tarek, Tom craned his neck round. Tarek, it's just that I'd rather have some activity. I'll have all the peace I want, too much of it, coming to me soon enough. Rachel looked back at the simple building and its cross and thought back 20 years and waited, hoping. Not today. So they helped Tom into their van and drove half an hour to Lofty Morton's, where the tea was strong in chipped mugs, and Lofty hadn't washed his overalls since 1953, and who cared? And Tom Blake sat up in his chair and talked a mile a minute, and the inspection lights bathed the dismantled Massey Harris tractor in beautiful disarray, its every intimate part being cleaned and made new to live again. Lofty was laughing and Tom Blake was snapping his fingers at an apprentice he saw getting dirt on an axle bearing, and the gentle nurse on the safety poster nailed high on a massive beam smiled down at the sinners below. Rachel looked up at the iron rafters and mildewed skylights and nodded at Tarek, and they tiptoed out and left Tom Blake to his worship. Yeah.
Awesome. Well worth the extra 30 seconds there, David.
That was a long intro.
It's all good. All good. That was sweet. All right, Joy Sheldon Smith, we've got you up next, and I think you put your info in the chat already, Joy, about how to get a hold of your books, etc.
Yeah, I'm at Amazon Books and I've published 4, working on a 5th.
Awesome. Okay. The
And
floor is
tonight, I'm going to do a change of pace from my usual, and I'd like to read from my intermediate children's novel. It's a Canadiana little history book called The Story of Roger Hardfoot. Got to get far enough back. And it's all about a young boy in 1891 who journeys across the northern Canadian prairies to escape the wrath of his 7 evil brothers. He has sustained a severe leg injury when he was clawed by an angry she-bear, and he is about to meet his rescuer. And please pardon my novice attempt at a Scots accent. Kerchink, kerchink, kerchink. I woke up in the grayish dark to a funny sound. Kerchunk. My head hitting something which was soft yet hard, and a heavy grayish pall hanging over me. Then a far-off voice as if echoing through a tunnel. Ach, laddie, are you awake noo? The gray lifted as something was taken away from my face. I could feel that I was being cradled in strong arms. Hours later, I realized that I was being carried as if I were but a piece of thistledown. The funny noise I later learned was the sound of bear traps clanging as my head lightly bounced off a massive hairy chest. And a strange smell all around me, like wet dog. I later realized that it was a massive home-knit tartan, which had been draped around me as, cradled in the arms of this giant, I flew through the forest. At times I was dimly aware of water being forced down my throat. I don't know how many hours I wafted in and out of consciousness, but throughout I saw a cloudy shape, a craggy face of indeterminate age with a huge beak of a nose and a woolly beard. Something grabbed me firmly around my back, and my one injured leg often dangled, bumping at an awkward angle. The injured leg was held solid in the grip of a huge paw. I continued to weave in and out of consciousness as this strange flying experience continued. Eventually, I was aware of more snow-reflected light. Then I sensed a door opening and dark space. Next, a loud creak as I was deposited gently on a flat, somewhat cushioned surface. Hands pulled at my damp clothing, and then I was enveloped in something heavy and warm. Eventually, the gray lifted, and someone or something was shaking me, and a gravelly, booming voice. Come on, laddie, time to wake and sup some of this fine broth I've made ye. You're not but a skeleton, lad. A hard metal object thrust into my mouth, something hot, a gag, a cough. My eyes popped open as all became clear. A huge hairy hand, even bigger than Brother Rafe's, the biggest I'd ever seen, holding an equally huge spoon. It was trying to force the tip of it into my child-sized mouth. Beyond it, a weathered, smiling face, shaggy whiskered and gap-toothed, urging me to eat. I swallowed a few spoonfuls of the thick soup as best I could, but about as much dribbled down my chin as made it to my mouth. The old fella feeding me would intermittently wipe my face with a musty-smelling tartan handkerchief. He muttered words of encouragement. There, new laddie, you've got to eat and get your strength back. You've had a bad tarn, but the fever's lifting. While you were passed out, I cleaned and stitched up your wound. Soon, if you eat hearty for a while, you'll be hopping about like a jackrabbit. But oh, you're the skinniest wee specimen I've seen since I've landed in this new world of yourn. Hearing that, I stopped slurping, craned my neck, and gazed at my surroundings. I saw that I was lying on one side of a small log cabin. There was a heavy door on my left, a chink-logged wall. On it hung weapons and traps of various sizes. There was a rough-hewn table with a couple of log ends for stools, and a small stone fireplace with a makeshift spit and kettle holder. As this giant moved around the cabin doing his various chores, he was big and awkward looking, but remarkably agile for his size. I judged him to be somewhere between 6'4" and 6'6", a real novelty in those days. He weighed, I reckoned, almost 300 pounds, hawk nose, shaggy Santa Claus beard, still peppered in unlikely spots with brown, piercing bright blue eyes, but above all, a most massive chest and upper arms. Och, new lad, I forgot to tell ye, If you need to know, my name be Jeb, Jebediah McLeod. And that's the title of the chapter, Jebediah McLeod. And there's a picture of old Jeb. And Derek, one of these days I'm going to learn how to do screen sharing, honestly, but I haven't quite got there yet. And if you want to see a really quick flash of Roger, that's Roger hiking through the forest, and he's wearing the stolen clothes from his older brother, which are too big and baggy on him. And the illustrations were done by my wonderful illustrator, Nancy Corman, who is a retired art teacher in Qualicum. So that's it for me tonight. And as I told you, the sequel came to me in a flash one morning at 5 a.m. and the sequel is going to be called Jebediah McLeod.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joy. That was awesome. All right, we're going to go all the way to Ontario now, and Jennifer Wen is going to read to us some poetry, I believe. Take it away.
Good evening. Thank you. Yes, two poems. Apologies to Jackie. She's heard the first one. I am a transgender woman, and I have a chapbook that was published, A Song of Milestones, it's called. You can get it through my website if you're interested. It was published by Harmonia Press, which is now an imprint of Belleville Books. It follows my, it's an exploration of my gender journey, a poem cycle. The overall title and structure were inspired by Whitman's Song of Myself. And each of the sections has some literary helper or other as a foundational referent. This section is called Undisguised, and Walt himself is the helper for this one. And each piece is a milestone, and this particular one was the first time I presented female in public. Tepid at first, then building, the fever rising higher and higher, per fervid spirit burning to be released, to follow Whitman and cast off disguise, spurred on by his cry that I am not guilty or stale or discarded, likewise mad for the world to encompass me, the me so long interred in full feminine regalia, panic barely held at bay by night's feeble veil, down to the bank machine I go, a simple, quick transaction, but oh, the relief, the joy, an eternity of quarantine wondrously ended, coupled to a dawning awareness of an unimagined, unimaginable road awaiting. That's number one. Thank you. Number two, this is quite different. It is a piece from my latest project. It's a cycle called Auschwitz Threnody, which is a belated response to having visited that incredible, infamous place in 2005. And this section is called Arbeit macht frei, and is a meditation on the infamous sign that is over top of one of the entrance gates that you've probably seen the photograph or other somewhere by now. Ahead, just past a gate, former Polish army barracks subverted to a darker purpose. Deadly prison and headquarters, now a haunted museum. And above us, prisoner slave Jan Levach's dictated artifact still leers down the infamous Nazi greeting and low carbon rimmed steel, painted death black, twisted into a gentle lettered arch, an old phrase maladapted, Arbeit macht frei, work makes you free, or perhaps work sets you free. In this place, free from what? Free from life? Happiness? Not free from fear, certainly free from sincerity, except genuine hatred and suffering. Work makes you free, empty of truth, but oozing the dark energy of a hideous joke. Arbeit macht frei, horror or humor, the beholder shapes the impact. The words of the prisoner slaves and the legions of the doomed were devoid of impact on the murderers and torturers, but not on history or spirit. Change context, change listener, and pivot to eloquent and moving and heartbreaking and potent. Words have immense power, power beyond imagining, power of life and death, of finality, of miscreation. Words spawned this, words suckled it, words of barbaric exclusion, words of loathing, words of evil, ancient anti-Semitic hatred, bloated, metastasized, modernized, a black hole devouring anyone deemed different, rallying cry for the bigoted, ignorant, racist, sadistic, cowardly, desperate, apathetic, blind, a lever to tyranny, simple syllables scuttling across the page, cavorting in front of Klieg lights, swaggering off on the fiery breeze, goose-stepping forth unbound, mutated, inbreeding, birthing demonic intention, contorted to action, simple at first, change some laws, break some windows, step by step, round them up, shoot them down or pen them in, one camp, then more, step by step, until human and cultural enslavement and extermination are bandied about over stolen cognac, Vanze's ghastly inevitability, a final solution to the chain of satanic reasoning, all whelped from words infused with the spirit of Arbeit macht frei. But look again, look closer at Arbeit. Here the B is upside down, larger bulge precariously balanced on top in protest. Yawns freshet of truth in a vast swamp of lies hiding in plain sight, a seed of defiance hopefully sprouting in the sprawling jungle of mockery and brutality and death. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was very powerful.
Thank you.
Much moving. That's beautiful. I think I said earlier about no hate speech, but hate speech against Nazis is all right, I think.
Yeah, I was hoping it would pass.
Yeah, no worries. All right, our next reader is Vicki Drybrough, my co-author from our latest book, Both Sides Now. Vicki, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Hi. This is a piece that I've been working on. I haven't finished it, but I'm just going to read the opening part. It takes place in the early 50s on a small island off the east coast of Vancouver Island, and it's called The Mail Girl. Maud Brewster waits beside her mailbox. She is smoking a cigarette and pacing back and forth, strands of dyed blonde hair sticking out of metal curlers, a flowered house dress showing under an open raincoat. Jeannie's grandfather brings the van to a gentle stop beside Maud. "For Christ's sake, where have you been? I've been standing out here for hours." "Sorry." Jeannie opens the door and slides out. She can hear Maud scolding her grandfather as she goes to the back of the 1940 Chev panel truck and opens one of the doors. She reaches into the dim recess and grabs a large parcel wrapped in brown paper. "I need you to drop this off at Hazel's," Maud says. "She's expecting it." The bag makes a clinking sound when she plunks it on the seat. "We're not a delivery service," says Ernie, as he moves the bag onto the floor. "We're Her Majesty's Royal Mail." "Oh, don't be a prick. You've done it lots of times before." Ernie sighs. "This is the last time. They could charge me with bootlegging, you know." "Here." Jeannie thrusts the parcel at Maud and climbs back into the cab. "Is that all? Where's my check?" "They didn't come." Jeannie closes the door with a clang and sticks her elbow out the window. She watches as her grandfather puts the van in gear and eases it back onto the road. He looks pretty good today. Some days he has a whiteness around his eyes and his face is gray, but today he looks rested, almost calm. He seems to be enjoying himself and she relaxes back into the seat. They turn down Big Hill Road. There are only 5 stops left, the last one right at the very top of the hill. While her grandfather places the mail in the mailbox, Jeannie gets out and walks ahead to where the road drops away. She feels as if she is in one of those nightmares where you're driving along and the road suddenly ends and you go flying off into emptiness with water hundreds of feet below. She steps back. Her grandfather appears beside her. We don't have the brakes or the transmission to tackle that. Well, what we need is a Jeep. They can go anywhere. Not buying another vehicle. The old girl is fine. She just doesn't do the big hill. But she isn't fine, is she? Thinks Jeannie on the way home. The van is 15 years old. It has been through at least 3 previous owners, and they haven't been kind. When it is cold, it is hard to start. Sometimes it makes weird noises, especially the heater. And there are times it is hard to put in reverse. Her grandfather bought it when he first got the postmaster's job. He figured to do it for a few years, then retire. But he hadn't counted on Jeannie's mother getting sick and her father losing his job. Jeannie's mom gets paid for delivering the mail, but she can't do that anymore. So she stays at the post office while Jeannie and her grandfather drive the van, delivering mail to everyone on the island. Together, her mother and grandfather support the family. Her grandfather tries to put a bit by for his retirement, but every time the paychecks come in, her dad is there looking for a loan. I'll pay you right back, he says. He never does, of course. Jeannie remembers when she was little. They lived in town in a nice house, and her father went to work every day. He was happy and loved to tell jokes that made her and her sister laugh. They went on trips to Vancouver or Victoria and stayed in hotels and ate in restaurants. Then something happened when she was 7. He didn't laugh anymore, and he always smelled of booze. Her mother stopped smiling. She didn't have time for her and Sue anymore. When she got a full-time job in Woolworths, the 2 girls were left alone most of the time. The van hits a large pothole and Jeannie is jolted out of her thoughts. She looks across at her grandfather, but he seems far away, lost in his own world. Thank you.
Awesome, Vicki. Thank you for that story. Beautiful. As always, you take us into those worlds so thoroughly. Okay. All right, our next reader, I've got Jackie Carmichael. There we are, and you're already on the screen, Jackie. It's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Derek. I'll be reading from my book with Heritage, published with Heritage House in November. Never got to really launch it officially, though, because of the pandemic. Heard Amid the Guns, and True Stories from the Western Front, 1914 to 1918. A lot of pictures in this book, and the second story short story that I'll be reading will have a picture with it. So this first one is called Give the Other Vote to the Sister. There are a number of women in this book. There's over like 150 little tiny stories. So there's a lot of women in there as well. Meet Roberta McAdams, the first woman in the British Empire to introduce and pass legislation. Alberta's act to incorporate the Great War Next of Kin Association, which recognized a veterans organization. For starters, the Alberta Military Representation Act of 1917 designated 2 at-large seats for the Legislative Assembly of Alberta to represent soldiers and nurses from Albertans serving overseas. War correspondent and suffragist Beatrice Nasmith encouraged Roberta McAdams to run and manage her campaign in an already crowded field of 20 men. McAdams was commissioned a lieutenant in the Canadian Army Medical Corps. As a staff dietitian at Ontario Military Hospital in Orpington, England, she fed recovering soldiers. Her photo in a nurse's wimple tugged at hearts mid-war, and as campaign slogans go, hers was pretty persuasive. Give one vote to the man of your choice and the other to the sister. She will work not only for your best interests, but for those of your wives, mothers, sweethearts, sisters, and children after the war. Remember those who have helped you so nobly through the fight. McAdams served in the Alberta legislature from 1917 to 1920. Her portrait hangs on the walls of the ledge. And the second piece is about Mrs. Black. Maybe you can see that. There is a woman sitting at that machine gun, learning how to run it. We have stolen Mrs. Black. Among the women of the Yukon who went off to Europe to help, the remarkable Martha Black was a tour de force. The American-born wife of Yukon Commissioner George Black, the society matron was long known as the First Lady of Yukon. Kathy Jones Gates of Whitehorse has spent years researching the Chicago local, who was born to wealth and pregnant with her third child when she climbed the Chilkoot Pass with an expedition financed by her father. And when war broke out, she was active in raising funds to support the troops. When her husband sailed with the last of his Yukon contingent, Martha Black insisted on sailing too, the lone female on a ship with 1,500 men. She won the love of the troops, who sang this song daily, Jones Gates said. We have stolen Mrs. Black, and we will not bring her back till the Germans quit and when the Allies win. Till we nail the Yukon Jack in the Kaiser's chimney stack, and we toast the Yukon daughters in Berlin. In Britain, Martha Black volunteered with the Canadian Red Cross and the YMCA and lectured to raise money for the war effort. She administered the Yukon Comfort Fund and visited wounded Yukon soldiers in hospitals, bringing them sweets and cigarettes. After the war, she returned to the Yukon, eventually winning an election as Yukon's Member of Parliament. She was the second woman thus elected and the first American-born.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jackie. I love the way you highlight these women that we would never have heard of otherwise. They disappear into the cracks of history. It's so great you did that book. Really good. All right, next in line, we've got Joe Lunchbucket. Bob, you're still with us. There you are, man. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Okay, can you hear me?
You bet. Go ahead.
This is continue a page out of my play that takes place on a cruise ship where the passengers are the actors. Democrat, reviled by fellow Republicans, Liz Cheney has the testes to admit the anointed one lost the election fairly, and wishing otherwise doesn't make it so. Will she run for president next election? Historian, do Republicans shoot the messenger for divulging the unpopular truth in political correct, enlightened 21st century? Joe Lunchbucket, was Hillary Clinton right about Republicans attracting deplorables? African American, we sampled freedom of speech when Southern politicians tried out-niggering each other for votes. This later changed to mentioning God in every speech to please moral majority. Has political correct pendulum overcompensated so that even stats today are taboo? Pessimist, no, we didn't, because atheist politicians must lie they believe, and media monopoly manufactures consent. Conspiracist, yes, the 1% aren't racist and will exploit Black and white political candidates. Canuck, Canada just suffered a fatality. Our greyhound died. Biblical scholar. The good book says plagues were heaven sent to decimate disobedient man. Can present pandemic be God's intelligent design? And do vaccinations thwart divine plan? Naturalist. Jane Goodall, our closest kin's best friend, says that man is an invasive species that can't keep multiplying on a finite planet. Pandemics create breathing space. Atheist. Do politicians tell us what we want to hear because pleasant lies like heaven's bribe sell better than cold grave bitter truth? Optimist. Are Jews waging civilized war, if there is such a thing, and warn Palestinians to empty media building before their warplanes hit it? Joe Lunchbucket. Is this more civilized than JFK ordering a hit on Castro and Bay of Pigs invasion? Pessimist. Are God's chosen civilized enough to accept binding arbitration or choose war because they have the military superiority to win? Newsflash. Biden criticizes China's treatment of Uyghurs, but ignores Israel attack on Gaza. Joe Lunchbucket. Is this an example of American exceptionalism and deceptionalism? European. Mostly children were killed in Gaza. How God's chosen have fallen. Will Palestine supporters be labeled anti-Semite? Agnostic. Is faith the enemy of reason, and do Christians await rapture and Christ's return? Are Gentiles reviled by both God's and Allah's chosen? Logger. We have discussions like this on buses going to and from work. No one is politically correct and nothing is sacred nor taboo. But I assumed that shipboard chatter would be more civil. Frequent cruiser. We'll probably never see each other again and are even more free to speak our mind. That's it.
Thanks, Bob. That's quite the cruise you were on. Yeah. And interesting to equate the trips on the Crummy with the cruise ship. That's new. That's right.
Well, I was really shocked. I was shocked on the cruise ship because I didn't expect that.
I bet. Yeah. Well, like you say, because they're never going to see each other again, it might loosen the lips a little bit, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we've got Bruce Hornidge lined up next. And Bruce, I take it you're probably going to read from your book that's in the process of beta reading right now as we speak, I believe. Well, we're not reading it right now, but it's out and about.
Actually, we've been editing the thing, so I didn't want to read any more of it.
Okay.
Some other time when we finish twiddling it up. Anyway, whimsical story. Cursor blinking. Blank page syndrome is a brain-dead excuse for a writer when no words will come to set a story to fruition. The idea is there, it's the beginning words that won't come to the fingers and onto the computer screen. Swimming thoughts to go left or right or jump to the end of a paragraph. Maybe the start will come. The hardest part is the beginning. Get that on the page and the rest falls into place. Get the hook for the reader's attention. Damn it to hell. I lit up a smoke to calm down. You are a new writer. Does panic motivate you? The front porch of the rental rancher is my place to smoke. No point in polluting my daughter's and wife's lungs any more than I already have. The home's owner surely would not like the smoke odor for a prospective buyer. Use a can for an ashtray and dump it every once in a while. Plunk down on the concrete with coffee and a dart in hand. Must remember to put a cushion in to sit on. No use getting piles. run my hands through graying, balding hair. What to write about? Staring down hard at the sunny gray concrete driveway. The grayness fills up my vision, and a flashing cursor in the upper left corner, my focus narrowed on that flashing. Hello there, little guy. An arachnid, fuzzy, grayish, large back body part with a smaller, darker front. The front had a small swiveling head and a couple of legs and pincers flexing. Sorry, but this guy, or scary, but this guy had a personality like a growling, busy hedgehog. He must have been sensing everything about his surroundings. As he approached, I moved a foot in front of him. He stopped, backed up a bit, thought a second or two, then reversed for about a foot. He stopped, thought things over, and returned to coming towards me. Another foot waggle stopped him, and I tapped the foot. He retreated at the noise. Moving the foot right or left caused the fuzzy to follow the motion. A car drove by on the street, causing him to turn to the noise, then back to my foot. He moved short steps towards my foot. Wait a minute, little friend. I don't want you climbing up my foot. I held out a finger to threaten. He followed the motion, turning left and right. Short turns, even turning his head section up at the finger, and those forward pinchers flexing. Jesus, if he stuck one of those things in my finger, it might hurt. He took a hedgehog stance again in a growling standoff. I blew smoke and hot breath at him. He cringed. An industrious, sensitive, stalwart, and stubborn cuss, aren't you? Wonder what he thinks about you, you brute. Did he fear me? I could flatten you right now. You would be dried out and picked clean by the ants by morning. No one would ever know you existed. He looked up and vibrated and flexed. You could probably run up my leg, across my clothes, up my arm to my face, and tweak my nose and be off in a flash. The thought made me a tingle shudder up my spine. Fuzzy runner. Move a bit and I'll squash you, he dared, then moved towards the house siding. Another foot stomp caused a final turn to pinch at me. Enter at your peril, little guy. There will be no quarter if I see you in there. It is my phobia and fears, so you're dead meat. Nice to meet, but don't get crossing my boundaries, please. He hesitated, then disappeared into the siding boards. I warned you, Mac. Little flippancy there.
All right, thank you for that, Bruce. It reminded me of Morningside when Stuart McLean brought a cricket to Peter Zosky. I don't know if you ever listened to that episode, and Peter Zosky blew smoke in with the cricket, and they ended up in hysterical laughter. It was one of the funniest Morningside episodes ever.
It's the little things that set you off in some rating.
Yeah,
that one I found was interesting. It actually happened, and I was on the front porch of Campbell River House.
Absolutely perfect. All right, Karl, just remind me if I've missed anybody, but I think that was all of our scheduled readers.
No, that's it. That's all. Just you.
All right, and I was going to read an excerpt from this story, but I guess I'm going to read a little bit of a longer one since we didn't have a second featured reader. So I'll read the whole thing. Should be about 10 minutes or so, or maybe just a little bit over that. So. Apologies to any of you who heard this when it was a piece of flash fiction. It's since grown. I never was happy with it as flash fiction. It always felt like it needed more, so I finally finished it off here. It's called Bungee Love. Nestled in the grassed over ditch, dividing the north and southbound double lanes on Highway 2, a pretty blonde woman named Marjorie sits in a yellow canoe waiting for her husband, Brian, to return. She wishes now she had needled him more about that jury-rigged combination of rope and bungee cord he had strapped the canoe down with that morning before they left his sister's home in Calgary. He should have known this stretch of highway turns into a wind chute every day, toss in a steady parade of semis hauling God knows what to God knows where, and you've got a recipe for peeling off roof racks, let alone loose-strapped canoes. They'd barely made it past Airdrie when the wind wake from one big honking truck lifted the canoe half a foot off the rack. The next semi was right behind the first one, and it just boosted the thrust of the first truck. The bungee cord didn't stand a chance. It snapped like an old rubber band. Marjorie spun around just in time to see the yellow canoe in flight, narrowly missing the windshield of the SUV that had been tailgating them for the last 10 miles. Then it nosedived into the ditch and did a textbook end for end like a giant yellow banana, executing a perfect 10 before coming to rest on its belly in the knee-high grass. It took her husband the better part of a quarter section to get the Toyota onto the shoulder and stopped. He was so stupefied by the twang the bungee cord made when it snapped. "Let me out," Marjorie said as soon as they jerked to a stop. "You drive ahead and find a turnaround. I'll stay with the boat." The last thing she wanted was him trying to back the Toyota along the shoulder of the highway in that traffic. Brian didn't question her. He knew who was going to be blamed for this whenever the trip came up for years to come. He was still catching fire for the time the lawn chairs blew off the roof rack on the way down the big hill coming to Hope 2 summers ago. Truth was, he hadn't wanted to bother wrestling the heavy fiberglass canoe into place, let alone tie it down. Like so many things his wife insisted on, he knew it was just a waste of time and energy. Picture us paddling crystal waters in mountain lakes, she had said, but in the end, they had driven straight through the Rockies and used it only once in the small man-made pond his sister lived on in Calgary, a pond so shallow that every stroke of the paddle brought up weeds trailing a stream of muck. What's more, despite his being the more experienced paddler, Marjorie had insisted on sitting in the stern so she could steer and tell him when to switch sides with his paddling as they circled a stagnant slough. If the pond had been deeper, he might have tipped the canoe. Now he's starting to feel like he's stuck in a bad dream. He missed the first exit because he couldn't find a gap in the traffic big enough to squeeze into, and now it's been miles without another exit. He can already hear the harangue she'll unleash on him, every word biting like a hatchet through his thin skin. The thought occurs to him that he could keep driving north to the Peace Country without her and avoid the hatcheting altogether. For a few long seconds, the thought gains traction. He'd be free, flying solo at last, all the way to the Peace Country where he had grown up, cradled in that ample valley of the Peace River, the hills silver with sage and studded with prickly pear cactus. It might take a bit of time, but he could get over Marjorie, he figured. He remembers when his childhood sweetheart had dumped him the night before he left for university. That had nearly taken him out until a friend hooked him up with a Reiki healer. The woman spent about 5 minutes scanning his field with her hands before she said, "You seem to have some cords ripping a hole in your navel chakra. Did you break up with someone?" "Yeah," he replied. "My girlfriend dumped me about 6 months ago." "No worries," she said. "We can help you with that." She worked her fingers like scissors and made as if she were snipping strings around his belly before working her palm in a circular orbit above his navel. Brian felt an intense heat build up in his abdomen, and then suddenly it vanished. By the time he got off the table, he felt like a new man. When an exit looms ahead, he delays putting his signal on as if daring himself to see how close he can come to busting loose. He has seen how easily it can happen. A pair of fingers scissoring the air, a couple of wind gusts at the right moment, and the cord lets go, or the off-ramp passes. As the minutes stream past like traffic, Marjorie starts to wonder where he is. She hadn't even paused to grab her phone when she jumped out of the car. What if something happened to him when he was trying to turn around? Maybe he had taken one of those emergency vehicle U-turns and misjudged how fast the oncoming traffic was going. She had saved him from miscalculations like that on more than one occasion in the past, screaming him to a halt at the last second. But he was on his own now. She does the math in her head, weighing his life insurance against the money still owing on the house, and then factors in the car payments and the interest on the line of credit. It's all doable till she gets to the part where she comes home from work to an empty house with no one there to cut the grass. Her mother had managed that one, though, paid the neighbor kid to mow the lawn and never mentioned her father again without prefixing it with the word bloody. But at least her mother had her across the dinner table to talk with every night until she headed off to UBC after high school. She begins to scan the southbound traffic a little more earnestly. Trucks in the passing lane flatten the clover as they blow by. In her head, she hears the twang of that bungee letting go like the opening note of a sad country and western song about lost love. She doesn't stop to wonder what all those people must be thinking as they drive by a pretty blonde woman sitting in a yellow canoe in a grassy meridian miles from the nearest water. When the shiny black pickup pulls onto the shoulder and stops with two wheels nudging the clover, a twinge of fear ripples through her stomach. But when a muscular cowboy with a black Stetson and a well-trimmed mustache steps out of the driver's side, she takes one look at his face and relaxes. She's always had a soft spot for cowboys, especially seasoned ones a few years older than her. He's got high cheekbones with a trace of red flushed across them, and his teeth shine a pearly white next to the dark mustache. He walks a bow-legged amble down into the ditch, stopping a safe distance away from her before he starts to speak. I have to ask, he says, did I miss something in the forecast this morning, or did somebody just drop you off out here without a paddle? His voice is pure oak and honey, a deep baritone that Marjorie imagines could calm a high-strung horse as easily as it could charm the panties off her granny. She knows she should tell him about Brian looping around to fetch her, but instead she hears herself say, I'm collecting grasshoppers and crickets 2 by 2, if that helps you at all. I knew I should have traded my truck in for a hybrid, he says. Now I'm going to drown and go to hell for driving a gas-guzzling Ford. The big guy might forgive you considering you live on top of all that oil and gas. I mean, he wouldn't have put it here if he didn't want us to use it, right? Yeah, I always figured driving a hybrid in Alberta would be a bit like being a vegan in a butcher shop. Besides, you can't stack much hay in the trunk of a Tesla. Name's Virgil, by the way. He tips his Stetson an inch or two, then looks at her and waits. Marjorie, she says, but most people call me Marge. A gust of wind from a semi rolls over them, and Virgil puts his hand on top of his hat. His hands look meaty and well tanned. Nice to meet you, Marge. So seriously, are you waiting for a tow truck, or can I give you a lift somewhere? I've got enough rope in the truck we could strap your canoe down. It's not in my blood to leave anybody stranded. In the few seconds before she responds, she imagines they have already loaded the boat and driven to his ranch, where he carries her inside and lays her down on a bearskin rug in front of the fireplace he built from river rock. No, I'm good, says Marjorie, though I could use a cell phone if you've got one handy. Up in the truck, he says with a jerk of a thumb. You're welcome to it, so long as you're not calling Revenue Canada. He flashes those white teeth again, and Marjorie vows to buy herself some of those whitening strips the next time she has the chance. She follows him up to the truck. The scent of the clover fills her nose, and everywhere the bees dip in and out of the blossoms. He opens the door and points at his cell phone on the seat. There you go. You might as well hop in the cab so you can hear yourself talk over the traffic. He stands there holding the door for her with his gaze trained on the ground. She takes one look down the highway at the endless stream of trucks and cars and slides into the driver's seat. The cab smells vaguely of horses and whiskey. This Virgil is pure cowboy and about as far from Brian as Garth Brooks is from Ed Sheeran. She picks up the phone and taps on the screen. It's locked, she says, and offers it up to him. Oh yeah, here, I'll put in my PIN. Scooch over. He climbs into the truck, leaving her no choice but to slip across to the passenger side before handing him the phone. When he closes the door, both the door locks click down with a heavy thunk. Automatic child locks. Ford thinks of everything, Virgil says with a smile. Something in that flash of white strikes Marjorie the wrong way. The top layer of teeth was white as table salt, but the bottom ones were stained brown as old tea. Chewing tobacco, probably. And veneers on the top teeth. She moves to the far side of the cabin, pushes her back against the door. In the box of the truck, she can see a neat coil of rope. It looks like the rope she saw the cowboys at the Calgary Stampede use to lasso and truss up young cattle when she and Brian went with his sister a few years back. She remembers being amazed at how fast they could have all 4 legs tied into a bundle. At the Stampede grounds, she hadn't felt too bad for the calves, but she has a new appreciation for their pain now. This is all bloody Brian's fault, she thinks. Virgil taps the screen, types in a few digits, and glances at the top corner. Dead zone. We'll have to drive ahead until we find some service. It can be a bit touch and go out here in the boonies. Brian debates whether he should pull over to the shoulder on the southbound lanes adjacent to the canoe or drive past Marjorie to the next exit and loop back, so he'll be pointing in the right direction when they load the canoe. Leaving her out there longer might give her time to cool down, or then again, it could just make her angrier that it happened in the first place. In the end, he decides that whichever way it plays out, it will delay his having to face her if he slips past and comes back around. She'd probably call him a chicken like she had when he hesitated to jump off the bridge when they bungee jumped on Vancouver Island not long after they met. At the time, he had taken it as a do or die moment for their future. It had been all he could to keep his legs from shaking, but somehow he managed to look her in the eyes, smile, and then turn and nosedive off the steel platform. He has no recollection of the descent to the river below. It was almost as if his soul had checked out for the necessary eternity of the fall and didn't check back in until his head dunked in the icy water of the Nanaimo River. Brian sees the silhouette of a cowboy hat before he catches sight of Marjorie walking behind the hat, heading towards a pickup truck on the shoulder of the road. The sight renders a jolt to his belly, akin to what he imagines it must be like when you get tasered. He regrets not being in the fast lane now, where he could pull over close to the canoe, but he'd been hoping to get in front of a semi and slow down to force it to pass him just at the right moment to hide him from Marjorie's sight as he blew by her. Now a cargo van slides past, obscuring her from his vision, but it doesn't matter. He's seen enough. What the hell is she thinking, he wonders as he punches the accelerator and the Toyota's engine responds with a high whining surge. He scoots by the cargo van and pulls out into the passing lane in front of it. He keeps reminding himself to breathe as he scans the highway ahead for an exit. After an anxious couple of miles and half of another, he can't believe his luck when he sees an emergency U-turn looming fast ahead of him. He puts on his blinker and pumps the brake pedal to make sure the traffic behind him is aware of his intention. His brakes squeal a little as he skids into the turnaround. He can stop if he has to, but after a quick glance, he opts to swing straight onto the highway despite the stream of cars bearing down on him. Please God, he says aloud as he tromps the accelerator pedal to the floor. He carves over into half of the slow lane before correcting back into the passing lane. Things begin to feel slightly surreal. It's like he is aware of only one thing, the open space ahead of him that he is groping for. Somewhere behind him, a high-pitched sound erupts, squealing tires or sirens, he's not sure, but it's practically eclipsed by the scream of his engine, and he bears down on the pedal even harder as if he could push it clear through the floorboards. He doesn't dare cast a glance in his rearview mirror. For a moment, he thinks he can almost hear Marjorie's voice saying, "What are you, chicken?" "You know, it's probably not that important that I make that call," says Marjorie. "I'm sure my husband will be here any minute. Besides, I shouldn't leave the canoe out in the middle of nowhere. Someone's likely to make off with it, and it's not even ours." "Oh, married are you?" says Virgil. "Happily, I hope." He's facing her now, and close up like this, she can smell the sweet overtone of whiskey on his breath. See the zigzag of red blood vessels dissecting the whites of his eyes. "Oh yeah, Brian's great," she says. She surprises herself with the enthusiasm in her voice, though right now she'd give anything to be home with him, making lunch or doing any of another 100 beautiful, mundane things that make up their life together. She reaches for the door lock, but it won't budge an inch. "Sometimes you just need to roll 100 yards ahead to find service, you know. Let's give it a whirl." He starts the engine and shifts the transmission into drive. "No, really don't. It's fine," says Marjorie. "Please just let me out." She has one hand on the door handle as she waits to hear the locks release, but instead she hears the grinding of fine gravel under the tires as they begin to roll forward. She presses her back against the door and pushes with her legs, but she knows it's a waste of energy. She scans the cab for anything she could use as a weapon to defend herself. His keys are the only possibility, and they're way too close to his meaty hands for her to consider reaching for them. She watches him glance up at his rearview mirror and sees his eyes spring open. She has never felt such love. And that's that one. Thank you all for your patient attention, and thank you all for coming tonight. Reminder for those feeling generous, etransfer at charslanding.com. Keep the doors open for Char, and we will meet again. So our next one is going to be, what's the date, Karl, in June?
16th.
16th. Okay, so early in June. And we've got Frances Cunningham and Brenner Jacobs and Brendan Bomberry. Indigenous Heritage Month next month. So we've got 3 Indigenous writers joining us. It's going to be really, really good. Looking forward to that. And other than that, I just want to say thank you to Char for being such a gracious Zoom host and for making this happen. And you're getting so good with these spotlight windows and moving around. It's beautiful, wonderful to see. Thank you, thank you. And thank you to Jackie Carmichael, our artistic director, who
And just a reminder, that's Friday, June 18th, I believe.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
Great.
18th?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you said the 16th there, so.
Well, I'm sorry, I was just looking at what you have posted up above where you say June 18th. Okay. And the reason there's 3 names is because Brenner Jacobs and Brendan Bomberry are 2 guys that have written a book about the history of lacrosse for First Nations. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And it is Indigenous Heritage Month here in Canada. So we are actually featuring Francine Cunningham is also an Indigenous author. So we're really excited about that. Sorry, that's enough from me.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. And thank you, Karl, our moderator, for keeping us all in line with our readers, et cetera, and lining our reading list up. And reminder to just email him if you want to read for next month. That would be great. Thank you to Micah Gardner, our photographer in absentia here tonight. And thank you most of all to all our readers, especially to our featured reader, Tony Durant, for that powerful poetry reading. And good luck on the Griffin, man. We'll be watching and cheering for you and hoping that it goes your way. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks for coming out, and take good care in these strange times that we're living through. Keep on writing, and thank you to our listeners who joined us, and we'll see you all next month.
Yep.
Thank you.
If you want to read and you have a website, just put it in the email, and then I will put it on the chat list for you guys.
And we're lingering a little bit. Sometimes we linger a little bit after the event.
We do.
So
we
I
love that.
I wanted to try her drum to see how it sounded. So.
Yes, play that drum.
Bring it on. Bang a drum.
I don't know if I should wait till after. Has it quit recording now? Will I be recording? All I want to know, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Is my drum able to power everything? Okay, this will be in August. I'm going to do little 2 funny readings on aging, and I'm going to introduce it with a song, and I'm going to steal the tune from the Beatles, When I'm 64, and Now That I'm 65. And however, I've written the lyrics, but I haven't memorized them, so I'm just going to have to tootle it. African drum, and I don't know how it's going to sound. Do 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 do.
Sounds good. It works.
Does that sound okay?
Marvelous. Awesome. Can't wait.
You can look forward to that in August when I finally memorize those lyrics.
There you go.
Thanks, guys.
For now.
Yeah, that's great.
Hi, Colleen.
Well, good night.
Hi, Karl.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Be well.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
All right.
Nice
Take
to
good care, Jackie.
join in.
Oh, we'll say good night too.
Thank you, Karl. Thank you, dear.
Super.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you.
Colleen.
Thank you.
That was
Take
great.
care. Very enjoyable. Thanks.
All right.
Another
See
great
you.
night, Derek. Excellent emceeing. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Colleen say something one time. About maybe, I know she has good poetry in her or something in her.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Okay, eventually, Karl. But nice to hear everyone tonight. It was
Yes,
great.
it is.
Thank you.
Great.
She
Good to see
is
you.
divine.
She's the reader. She's the writer. All right, Colleen, you could start small, just a couple of minutes. You know, you don't have to do the full 5.
Yeah.
Thanks, Derek.
Do whatever you
thanks
want
for
to
the
do. 3
encouragement.
minutes, 2 minutes, whatever.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Good night. Take care.
Good night.
Night.
What you got there, Char?
I'm just, Colleen and Tamash are both artists with, help me with the right word, but with painting and sculpture, and Colleen and friends have a big art show up at Rollin Arts Center starting June 1st, right? June 5th is the...
That's right, Char.
Yeah.
At Rollin Arts Center, the June 1st to August 21st. There's 5 of us.
Wow.
Yeah. And
women's work. Yeah.
And Colleen has recited poetry here on Char's stage before, so I know you're a gifted author.
So
Just
Char,
need to get you up.
Colleen, maybe you could present some poems and do a screen share and show your art at the same time.
Ooh, nice.
That's a very
like that.
That's a very
well.
popular thing to do.
That sounds fun and creative. Lots of good ideas there.
It won't be the first time, anyways.
That's right.
Sort of a multimedia kind of presentation.
Absolutely. Poetry and art go together so well that you might want to think about that. And it's really easy to learn how to screen share.
Or you can send me the file and I can scroll through them for you either way.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, hey, some further creative work over the next few weeks or months.
Great.
Good. I'm glad we joined in.
Yes. Thank you for joining in, you two.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay.
All righty. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Derek.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.